everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Film Freaks Television. I'm your host. Whoop, lost Alfred. Good God. I don't know what happened. Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Moody, the host of this episode, and I'm here with Paul.
Paul A Presenza, the sick moo cow.
That's the poor sick moo cow. He's my co-host for most of these things, and then we've got my co-host from Hollywood Boulevard podcast. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Joe Turek. I'm glad to be here. And Paul, so it's like sour milk from you right now?
Yeah.
And we had Alfred. Alfred should be joining us back. I don't know what happened.
Dealing with a lot of mucus.
All right. Let's try not to talk about that.
We're talking, what we're talking about here today, this movie, I think it could be a little R-rated.
It was actually originally X-rated, I heard, the original movie. Wow. But we'll get into that in a second. Alfred, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Alfred here. I'm from the Video Alternative and Facebook and Performance Enhancing Films podcast. Here, I saw it theater when it came out, and I look forward to talking with you all about it.
All right.
Yeah, this is part of the crew that did The Fog, right?
Yep. And I think we came back and did another one all together.
Yeah.
Was Mad Max? I don't know if Alfred was there for Mad Max, maybe?
I missed that one, unfortunately.
I think he missed that one. But we did do Jaws together, and we did, I think, one other one all together.
This was, I think it was The Fog was the first episode, wasn't it? Film Freaks.
Why has there not been a Robo Jaws?
Well, there's been Robo Sharks, hasn't there? Like Mecha Shark.
Mega Shark.
So there's plenty of those things. I don't know. We have another guest that might be joining us. I'm hoping he will, but we'll see. I don't know. Send him messages and we'll see what happens. If he joins us, he joins us. There's another guest also that was planning it, and I'll tell you guys which one might not be joining us, which is unfortunately Tom Conkle couldn't get out of editing. But he wanted to join us, and he said for us to have a good show. So he was one of the guys for Jaws as well. So we're going to talk about Robocop. And Robocop is probably one of my favorite movies. Like, I love this movie to death. It's on my top 20 list of films. And it's my first rated R movie ever watched as a kid.
And we should probably make clear that we're talking about the original Robocop, not 2, not 3, not the remake, not the TV series, not the cartoon, not the musical, not the breakfast cereal, the original Robocop.
There seems like there was a breakfast cereal for Robocop.
It was an 80s popular movie. I'm sure they had cartoon series check, live action TV series check. I'm sure they had a cereal.
Comics,
toys.
Lots. There was Robocop versus Terminator, which is really funny considering that Ryan also put out Terminator, and that was the reason why they made Robocop, was because Terminator did so well violently.
I seem to think that there was a comic book series too.
That would make sense.
Oh.
I think it was Dark Horse Comics.
Oh, I think it's, like I said, there's in the comics, there was Robocop versus Terminator. So
yeah, Robocop versus Aliens, Robocop versus Predator versus Terminator versus
all
Aliens.
of them are I guess in the same universe, which is crazy.
It's like the Sparrow Monsters.
The reason it did that, because this is what you did in the late 80s, but also it was a very rich story to mine, because the character was really cool, the story was really cool, and there was a lot that you could really expand in that universe, in my opinion. Now, I don't think they did a particularly good job doing that, unfortunately, as usual, but the potential was certainly there.
Mm-hmm. So our next guest also will be joining us in a few minutes, or seconds, whatever it is, but we're gonna go around the room and sort of talk about the first time we saw it. Now I'll go first and say the first time I saw this movie was when I was 7 years old. And as I said before, it was the first rated R movie that I ever got to, like, my dad would ever let me watch. Jaws was probably the first horrific, scary movie that I ever got to watch. But this was the first like rated R movie. And my dad like let me watch it because the violence and everything was so cartoonish in a way that he didn't feel like it was like real feeling or anything, you know? And so I was into cartoons, and I think there was a Robocop cartoon around the
Right.
time that I was getting into this, so kind of made sense. So I guess Paul, do you want to go first?
Yep, saw it in the theater when it came out in 1987. I was what, 20? So yeah, I was still in college, and I had known Paul Verhoeven from other films before. So this
I
is
think
when he
he'd only
started
done Flesh and Blood,
Flesh
I
and
think.
Blood, but he had done some other stuff in Europe. So he was kind of like a European director before he became really more of a Hollywood director. So, and I liked Flesh plus Blood. So this was a very interesting thing, and of course it had what's his name? Brian Cox? No, Ryan Cox.
Ronnie Cox.
Yeah,
Ryan
right.
Cox,
Yeah.
whom
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of. And yeah, and so this was like right up my alley at the time. So
Definitely. All right. Well, what about you, Joe?
Well, I saw it in my first stint working at Blockbuster. It was like in 1990. I saw it. I saw it right when Part Two was coming out, like on video, and I was like, how did I miss this? Let me go ahead and watch this because everybody was like clamoring for Part Two when it came out. And I was like, well, let me go ahead and watch the first one. So I never got the pleasure of seeing it in the theaters, but I definitely got to see the VHS copies of it, and then you know DVDs and all down the road. But yeah, so I was about 18, 19 at the time when I saw it for the first time.
Awesome. How about you, Alfred?
Yeah, well, as Alfred, I saw it in 1987 at the theater. I was 15, and my uncle and I went to see it. We were just like floored by it. We were like, I didn't see anything like this in my life. You know, there's some great scenes, and it was just like something else. It was like being transported to another world, and it was amazing. Something I think a Full Metal Jacket came out that year too. I said it was the year before. There's a lot of like violent movies that came out, but I just really, it's just fascinating when I first saw it. It was like a roller coaster ride, and yeah, that's my first experience. I saw it. I think I saw it at Coliseum AMC Coliseum 4. It was right across the street from the Coliseum Mall back in the day.
In a building that's no longer there.
Yeah,
They've imploded it in the past year or so, and actually, right in front of that parking lot, there's a Hooters restaurant right now. But
Nice.
yeah, the Coliseum Four is gone, but yeah, that was a fun little theater back in the day.
yeah,
well, it's interesting that Alfred mentions that it's like going to another world. And one of the things I wanted to talk about this film is the fact that it utilized that sort of late 80s dark, scary, dystopian crime is running amok kind of setting that a lot of films in the late 80s and early 90s did. I don't know if you guys remember, but I certainly do. Hey, Mr. Ward, welcome to the show.
Hey, sorry, thought it was 7. I could swear it was 7.
No, it's always been 9 our time, so 6 yours, but it's okay.
That's all right.
We usually do stuff at 7 your time. So I think that might be where you got it mixed up a little bit. But Paul can't stay. A lot of these guys can't stay up that late. It's just too late for a lot of people. I mean, even this is too late. You know.
But yeah, I was talking about the sort of crime dystopian world that this movie is set in, and how that was often used in movies in the 80s and especially the late 80s and early 90s when we had the big crack epidemic. The thing about it that set it apart was the fact that there was a lot of humor. There's a lot of dark and black humor in this, with the guy who's always popping in on the TV, and his famous catchphrase, "I buy that for $1." The comments from the newscasters, some of the commercials. There's a lot of funny stuff going on there, and it reminds me of John Carpenter's They Live, because that also came out around the same time. They also sort of did this dystopian world of crime run amok, but at the same time making fun of it too. So yeah, it was kind of a cool setting in my opinion.
Satire, pretty much
Yeah.
of it. John, we talked about earlier how we first saw the movie. How did you first see this film? And by the way, this is John Ward. So hello.
Some of you I know. I remember laughing at the display in a movie theater. That I'm just like, it's freaking Terminator just on the outside. Like, this film is going to be so stupid. How dumb that they just ripped the Terminator off. Wow, was I wrong? So
same company too, Orion.
Yeah, Orion. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just like, screw it. We did really well at the Terminator. Let's fucking make a another bloody kind of Robo movie.
Well, they did it again. They did it again a few years later, sort of in another one with the Universal Soldier. I mean, it's the same general idea, and I think that's Kuroko. So I guess maybe that's all sort of an offshoot into the Orion Terminator universe.
Who did Terminator 2?
Exactly.
If you look at it,
Orion, and then
if you look at it, the Ed 209 is kind of your Terminator right there.
Yeah,
that's true.
Except that it can't walk downstairs.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. As you can see from there, that's my favorite scene. Where have a tipper tantrum, and
what a flaw!
Yeah.
Like, what did they think of that?
That's the Dalek flaw.
Did it make a big noise? Because it was
exterminate. He's like, just.
But they fixed that in Doctor Who, though, by actually where Sylvester McCoy laughs at them at stairs, and then they have the power. They lift up. They have the jets. And they float up the stairs, and he freaks out and runs away. So they fixed that problem like.
It took a few years.
Didn't I swear to God, wasn't in Jurassic Park or something? Didn't they do something similar where one of the dinosaurs couldn't walk some certain places or something? If I'm correct, if I might be completely wrong, but I always thought that they could walk upstairs or something like the raptors.
Not that I know of. No,
I don't know. Anywho, I always thought that was really funny. That was seeing just the tipper tantrum he throws and everything. It's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, just because.
Why did it make the pig noise? Is a pig brain in it or something? Is it
Yeah, Alfred, I think the question is, instead of why did it, it's like, why not for this type
of they're cops, remember?
Yeah. Oh, pigs. Nice. Maybe that was it. You know what? You probably gave more thought to than what they actually thought in the movie. They probably just threw that sound effect in there, but now they're like, yes, we're gonna go with that.
Yeah, it's like a Roomba that just has a fit when it can't get past the corner.
Right.
Yeah. Which I mean, Roombas are, little robots.
Roomba Cop.
Roomba Cop.
I would love to see Roomba Cop. I would pay money to see that.
I don't know. Sadly, you can't say Roomba though, unless you actually got permission from Roomba.
With me.
What did you say, Alfred?
Dead or alive, you're cleaning with me.
That's funny. So anyway, I always thought the writing was really well done, but apparently the first few minutes or first few pages, Paul Verhoeven read and turned it down and said he was not interested in this movie. And then his wife read the whole thing and said, this is a great satire on today's world and culture and everything. You have to do this. So he agreed to do it because it pleased his wife. And I think that's hilarious.
I'm wondering, was it not sleazy? Was it not sleazy enough for him or something? I mean, or not?
Did he do Showgirls?
Yeah, Showgirls.
He did, but afterwards
and stuff like that.
I know.
That was Joe Esterhausen who wrote that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The film that got him this was Nomads.
Mm-hmm.
Nomads?
The Pierce Brosnan film.
Which was actually kind of a cool movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after this, he did Total Recall,
Mm-hmm.
By the way, they were actually originally thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger well, obviously because of Orion and Terminator Connection, I guess. But they're also thinking of like Rutger Hauer for the role, and they ended up going with Peter Weller because Peter Weller was skinny, you
Right.
know, and could fit in the suit.
And cheaper, frankly. That's why
Probably, yeah.
him and Nancy Allen are in there as opposed to bigger stars, Sharon Stone.
Well, RoboCop would have looked like Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. If Tim Burton had his way.
I just read that Arnold Schwarzenegger thought that Red Sonja is his worst movie, and no, Batman and Robin is your worst movie, brother.
Yeah.
Like, no, Red
I'm
Sonja is
one of
not
the few people that
great.
like
I'd buy
Batman
that
and
for
Robin.
$1.
Probably at the Dollar Tree, right?
Yes.
Well, the other thing that I liked about this film, in addition to sort of the crime run amok scenario or dystopian fantasy, the other thing that was going on at the time was the just balls to the wall, toxic male corporate, universe that was going nuts there with all the cocaine and everybody slitting each other's throats to get ahead. And it kind of made an impression for me at the time because other movies picked up on that at the period too. And I'm like, like I said, I was in college looking to graduate in another year or two. And I'm like, is that the world I want to get into? No, I really don't. So it's, in a way, movies like RoboCop help sort of push me into a whole other direction with my life. So that's why RoboCop, even though I can't say it's my favorite film, it does have kind of a soft spot for me because of the way that it made me think about how I wanted to live and more importantly, how I didn't want to live. And I definitely did not want to get myself into that corporate environment.
Those were the good old days.
Shit.
So
you
Joe,
could just kill a rival and get away with it, I suppose.
Yeah. Joe, what was your favorite part of this movie?
The jokes and the commercials really always stuck with me. It's just because it was just so over the top, but yet for the 80s, it's really not over the top. It fits perfectly into it. I'd say just the interaction and just the one-liners that they popped off to each other and stuff like that. It was that you could tell it was over the top, that it wasn't even going to be a straight, you couldn't take it too seriously, obviously, type of movie. And so for me, it was just, but until last night, I hadn't seen it probably in like 10 to 15 years. So it was kind of interesting when I was looking at, I was like, okay, is it streaming somewhere or something like that? And then the other day I was in the thrift store and I got
nice.
it for $1. I got it for $1.
Did you bought that for $1?
Wow.
Did you say that to the lady? I'll buy that for $1. Shoulda.
It was, and it's a 1, 2, and 3, and it was unopened.
Nice.
It was unopened. So I actually, because I was like, oh, I've been needing to see this because for this, just so I could refresh my memory. And then when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is, it's all coming back to me now because I've seen it so many times back in the day. But yeah, I got it, and I was just like, yeah, definitely, I'll buy that for $1.
Another.
Where'd you get it? I'm sorry, I stepped away for a second.
Another reason I wanted to do it was because I just got the Arrow 4K version.
Oh, so you got the nice.
John's got to pick out his one too.
Well, mine's just mine's a simple DVD 3-pack. But yeah, for $1, brand new. It was like yeah. And it actually looked pretty good on upgraded on a 4K player and everything. But
yeah.
I mean, it's still DVD. It's not a 4K.
No, I'm just kidding.
John, do you have your own copy or something?
Yeah, I got the trilogy on Blu-ray.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So it's got all 3.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
I haven't seen 2 or 3 in probably forever. So, but
I just watched part 2 actually right after the first one and the remake.
Oh, you have to.
Sorry.
I like it. It's not nearly as good as the original, but I like it. I think they did a decent job on a film that never needed to be remade. So,
well, the live action TV series is on Tubi.
I'll be back.
Okay. Is on Tubi, and the cartoon is actually on YouTube. So all the episodes of it. So Yeah, I was thinking about you, Alfred, when you were mentioning you were asking about the cartoon. But yeah, it's on YouTube. If you just look up RoboCop animated series, it'll pop up, and they'll have like a whole playlist of all the episodes and stuff. So I
Like the
think that's
Rambo series.
Rambo series might be on there too. I don't know. I haven't looked that up, but they usually, I think, like the Karate Kid series, all those series of like movies that didn't need animated TV series, for them,
But YouTube does have Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. They have every
Ooh.
episode for free.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a
So-
fun show.
Which one was Captain Power?
He's the one that you would have the gun and you could shoot it at the
Yeah.
screen and it never worked properly, but it was
Oh.
actually a great series that was aimed at kids, but really written for adults. So
That's
it
what I was
really
thinking of
good.
Captain Planet
And
Yeah.
Captain EO.
or Captain N, the
Captain
Game
EO.
Master.
Captain
Yeah.
EO.
What was that? Captain who?
Yeah. Captain EO. Michael Jackson's foray into science fiction.
Oh, I didn't. I
Oh,
never heard of
yeah,
that one.
I have heard of that now. Yeah.
I-
So Alfred, you mentioned something a little bit ago when you said you saw it. It was like when you saw it in the theater, there was a lot of R-rated stuff that was violent films and stuff like that. And you mentioned Full Metal Jacket. I was going to say that as I usually do when we do these type of things, I look up just to see what was popular in the theaters the week that it came out. And Full Metal Jacket was number 5 in the box office the opening weekend that
Nice.
RoboCop opened.
what was
uh,
RoboCop?
RoboCop opened at number 1 with over 8 million, just over 8 million. It had
Nice.
$13 million budget in to make them like 50 some million. So number 2 was
53 million, I think I heard. So like
yeah, 53 was its total or somewhere there. Yeah, so number 2 was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a re-release again. Number 3 was an opening, kind of funny. Jaws: The Revenge.
Huh.
Yes.
that was number 3.
That was number 3 at the box
Nice.
office.
Good for
I love that
them.
movie.
It opened up the same weekend as RoboCop, and then number 4 was Revenge of the Nerds 2.
Oh,
Nice.
So
nice.
it was so yeah.
Wow,
So it was,
Full
but,
Metal Jacket got. Well, I guess Full Metal Jacket already probably been in there before then, right? Or is that the opening weekend?
it says it was in its 4th week. So
Okay, 4th week.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it
so
probably
it was-
dropped down. I was gonna say, there's no way Revenge of the Nerds 2 would ever beat, that would ever beat the Full Metal Jacket in the box office. No way.
Yeah.
Well, but they
And,
did have that onslaught of army movies or military films. I mean, Hamburger Hill, Platoon. I mean, it was got to the point of being exhausting. I mean, of how many of those came out. So
Well,
And,
and think about how
and-
many were also like direct to video too, at that time.
Golden
'Cause that was,
Globus.
yeah. Oh yeah, Canon. Oh my goodness. They
well,
were
but
and
I saw a lot of those in the theater. I saw Platoon Leader in the theater and
The Missing in Action in the theater.
Missing in Action 1 and 2. I saw in the theater.
I never saw
Yeah.
them in the theater. I'm kind of sad.
I worked
had
at
that
the
experience.
Canon Theater, so it was
Oh, wow.
a theater that was designated by our company as all the bad movies. So if it
Huh.
was
Oh,
if it
Wait, was it
Empire,
like literally called the Canon Theater?
no,
Okay.
it was the
Say,
Talent
Jesus.
Theater, but we got every Canon movie, we got every Empire film, we got all of that stuff. So we played Breakin' 2,
Nice.
Oh,
Was that a
all
double
this stuff.
feature ever? Because that sounds awesome.
It was not, no.
I would
that's
go
a
to that.
shame.
So
If I owned my own theater, that's what I'd be playing. Things like that would be a double feature. People would go.
Yeah. Looking back at that weekend, though, there was one other movie that I just wanted to mention real quick because we've talked about it in a previous podcast. Predator was in its 6th week of release.
Wow.
So it was still around. So just thinking that Predator and RoboCop and Full Metal Jacket. I mean, just think of those great movies in that time period.
1987 was a damn good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, am I correct? I think Big, was that 1987 or is that 88? That might be 88. 88.
which one?
Big.
80, yeah, Big was 88.
Big.
So like
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
that
it wasn't-
time period of like 86 to 89 maybe had a lot of amazing movies, I think, or
Yeah,
whatever.
looking at even the other movies that was in there that I didn't even mention. I did mention Witches of Eastwick, Untouchables, Spaceballs.
Untouchables was 87?
Yep, 87. It was number 11 that week at the box
Nice.
office. And Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a great time at the cinema. Unfortunately, it's not like that right now. Very
No.
much. I mean, it's kind of hit and miss.
I would
Very a lot more misses.
I definitely want to do Adventures in Babysitting for either Hollywood Boulevard podcast or for Film Freak sometime, because
Yeah,
Adventures in Babysitting is just such a fun flick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like people don't talk about that one as much. I mean, RoboCop probably gets a lot of talk, you know, but
Mhm.
movies like Adventures in Babysitting, the original, I
Mhm.
didn't like until just recently. I didn't know there was even a remake. You know,
it wasn't made for like Disney Plus or
yeah,
something. It was just yeah. So
it was
yeah.
it was crap, but
My
Well, ones
biggest
that I
problem. Oh, sorry. Oh, my
No, go
biggest
ahead.
problem with RoboCop and during that time period was its R rating.
well, that's why this version I have right here is the unrated version.
Yeah,
You know,
because the MPAA at the time, now it's just MPA, had, thought, no, this is too violent.
did
But
they
of course
change
they
it just
didn't.
MPA?
Yeah, now it's just MPA.
I
Yeah, if
always
you watch
still
at the
call
end,
it MPAA.
at the end of each movie, it just said it's 1A now. Yeah, it shows it just
Yeah,
1A
so
for
that's just
whatever
the
reason.
Lame.
Motion Picture Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
And
guess
not
maybe
of
they've
America. I guess they don't want to
right.
just brand themselves as well. I mean, they
But
don't do international stuff anyway, so it's
yeah, I don't know why they knocked it off. But it just goes to show how stupid these people are, that's the joke in the film, is that the violence is so extreme that it's comic booky and you start to laugh at,
right.
you know, you know, God, I'm blanking on Peter Weller's character's name now, and I just watched the film 2 hours ago.
Murphy.
Murphy.
Murphy. That Murphy gets shot like 50 times, and it's supposed to make you start to laugh because it's so absurd.
Well, it's
And they
that
they just cut it all out, going, no, it's stupid. Then it just becomes violent.
yeah.
Now you're just watching an R, like a violent R-rated movie instead of like a satire.
So
Well-
was it that scene? Was it that scene that his death at the beginning that made it in NCX or NC-17
Yeah.
or whatever that they had to cut? Okay.
That and there's a few others. I noticed on this Blu-ray, some of the extra gore is grainy. So I'm guessing that's the stuff that they put back in. So it's so there's a few scenes that are
So you got on the Blu-ray, it is the unrated version.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I made sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I watched the unrated version recently, and I mean, I can't tell too much difference except for how much longer some of the shoots of actually getting shot are. Like obviously Murphy's death is longer and more drawn out. And then also the guy that gets shot by Ed 209, that
That's
scene
longer. Yeah.
that's longer. And so there's a few of those. But I was thinking about that because I was watching this like making of on the Arrow release, and they said that they tried, yeah, like you said, they tried cutting it down, and every time they cut it down, it still got the X rating, So eventually they agreed on a cut, but it just felt nasty. And I even explained earlier before you came on that was the reason my dad let me watch it when I was a kid, was because it was a cartoon. It wasn't like this didn't feel like a real movie. This didn't feel like, this would actually happen. You know what I mean? As opposed to like either to give the best examples, the original Terminator was just dark and nasty and violent and grim, compared to this like basic comic book fluff kind of thing, like it's more.
Well, yeah, they have when they got the guns later on, and the bad guys had the guns that was blowing stuff up. I mean, they just took it. It was like you were playing like a video game. It was just shooting and blowing buildings up and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So it played it for laughs and stuff.
They
Like
did the
that,
art
so.
bang bang.
I yeah, and so I love all the violence in it. Like just that scene with Kurtwood Smith fucking with Murphy, and and to think he's that 70s show dad.
Oh,
He's
no,
red.
So story. I used to work at Tower Records in Pasadena, way back in the day, obviously. So this is right after RoboCop, but before that 70s show. and my friend of mine and myself were in my car. We're going to Tower Records, and all of a sudden, there's one empty space, and two cars go like that, and we're like, "Motherfucker, get out! We got the space." And I look over, and my friend goes, "Dude, that's Kurtwood Smith. That's the guy from RoboCop," and he just stares at us. He just has that look like he's going to murder us. And because it wasn't red yet from that 70s show, and it was the psycho from RoboCop, it was like, yeah, we'll reverse. And we reversed out, let him have the spot, and we found our own.
Well, yeah, him, and he was also the villain. I remember in Fortress, another movie that I liked. Is a lot smaller in scope, stuff like that. But yeah, he was that. But just a bunch of people. Miguel Ferrer, mispronounce his name. I loved his character. He was funny.
He was hilarious in it, because he was playing the guy who basically created the RoboCop, stuff or whatever. And one of my, I was thinking about it earlier. I love every scene where RoboCop says thank you. Like the one point where they're like, "Give the man the keys," so he throws the keys at him, and goes, "Thank you." Right, and catches them. And then when he's like, "Dick, you're fired," he goes, "Thank you." Like every scene where he says thank you, I'm like, that should be like, that's got to be like a running gag thing, like, but he was the most polite RoboCop ever, kind of thing.
Two of my favorite scenes are the first one is when he goes into the dance hall going after the guy with the black hair. I can't remember his name, but he's been in a lot of movies, and he pulls a pistol and he knocks the pistol out of his hand, and it goes. This guy's dancing, doesn't lose a beat. He catches the gun midair, and then he starts keeps on dancing. I love that part. It was so smooth. I just watched it over and over. How the hell did he do that? And then the other parts when he was with Sally, he's like, "Guns, guns, guns. The Tigers are playing tonight. I never miss a game." I love that part.
Hey, Alfred, have you and John been in a show together yet? Have you guys?
I interviewed him we did Performance Enhancing Films. I still have to release it. We had some problems with my Libsyn account, but it'll be the last episode from last year, so it'll be up there. We talked about Lucas and Star Wars.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
It's good to see you again, John.
Good to see you. It's hard recognizing you because you're kind of in the dark.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Otherwise,
yeah, I think you were thinking earlier. Maybe I haven't been on the show with everybody, or something. But
there we go. Now I can see you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Now I recognize you.
Yeah, and John and I, we've been on a few of these before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there you go. And Paul, wherever Paul went, he was.
One other actor. Yeah. One other actor that has to be mentioned in Moody, I think you appreciate this as much as me, was Dan O'Herlihy. I can't pronounce his name. The old man, he'll always be Halloween 3 to me, but but yeah, seeing him as the old man pop up in there. But I know you and me have a sort of a soft spot for Halloween 3.
Oh yeah.
We're on different ends of the spectrum from a lot of people, but it's okay. They're wrong.
You play the lizard guy in Last Starfighter? In O'Herlihy?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
okay. He's Greg and the last.
That's right.
Starfighter.
Yeah, he's a great actor. The one that I would say is my favorite, even beyond Peter Weller, would be Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox.
He's a great character actor and country singer. So
did not know he's a country singer.
Yeah, I've watched movies just because he's in it, because it's just Ronnie Cox, country singer, and it's just like, I'm there.
I just watched Beverly Hills Cop again recently, and I forgot he was in that movie. It's the lieutenant and everything. But he has such a small role in that. It was sort of like I almost felt disrespectful in a way. Like I felt like he should have had a bigger part. But
he's in all three. So
yeah, it's true.
Will he be a number 4?
I hope they make number. They're working on it, right, or something?
Yeah, it's going to be a Netflix movie though. I think it's just called. I think it's just called Axel Foley. But Judge Reinhold and his partner, I'm drawing a blank on his name. They're all in it.
Like Paul. No.
John Ashton.
Yes, I was totally off.
It's okay. Paul, John. Hey, they're
Whatever.
Beatles, you know. So
Yeah.
Beatle
And I had a
names.
thing. I had a thing
Ringo.
for Nancy Allen back then. I
I
liked her a lot.
Other than this, I had no idea, like for a long time, like who, like what else she's been in. But I like
Oh
I was
my
seeing,
God, are you serious?
yeah,
Or like
because
blowout. What?
I mean,
Or like
she was in
Oh my
blowout.
well,
God,
she
Like
was
she
a
was
lot of De
Brian De
Palma
Palma's
movies because she
wife.
was dating or married to
Yeah, she was in
Brian De Palma.
Carrie. Yeah,
Yeah,
Blowout. She
Dress to
was in
Kill.
Dress
Yeah.
to Kill. Yeah,
yeah.
and the thing is, people say these days, oh, there's no good parts for women, and it's like everybody goes, well, what? Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, they name these, but where's her character?
Yeah, right.
She's
You
in
got
a
to bring up a good point.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, also Sissy Spacek playing Carrie. That was a good part. Like that was strong.
Well, Nancy Allen's the only one that's in all three of these RoboCops, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody else in number three outside of her.
Yeah, I think she's the only connecting. Yeah.
Her and Peter Weller, right? Yeah, we're in all
Well,
three.
Weller's
No,
not in.
no,
Weller's not
Peter
in
Weller
three.
was not in the third one. Fucking
It was Robert John
Burke, who
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinner.
I always remember him from all the Hal Hartley movies. Which nobody, I don't think you guys even really know of
I know
those.
who Hal Hartley is, but I know him
Yeah.
from Thinner. So yeah,
You know him from what?
Thinner,
Oh,
the Stephen King movie.
He was
Stephen
in
King movie,
Thinner? I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I
he's the
never
fat
saw
guy
Thinner.
who gets thin, who gets
Yeah,
gets
he's
the
the main
gypsy
guy.
purse. Yeah.
Are you sure that's Hal Hartley?
No.
No,
I'm
no,
saying
Robert
I
John
know
Burke.
who Hal Hartley is, but I know the guy from Thinner. I don't know him from
Oh. Oh, you know Robert John Burke from Thinner. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know he played a fat guy. Must have been a suit or something.
Yeah. Oh, it was a good looking suit too.
Yeah.
But that's the worst thing about part 3, of course, is the PG-13 rating, which was intentionally done for the TV show. So
Oh yeah, because kids were watching it,
Yeah, they wanted to kind of dumb it down a little bit, but some of the info I got is I'm friends with Chris Decker, who's Fred Decker's brother. And so Chris and I used to hang out all the time up in Northern California. And so he would kind of give me the lowdown on what his brother's doing. And at the time, it was Robocop 3. And that was made purely for the TV show. That was it.
Well, it's got to be kind of hard. I mean, like you think about RoboCop and you think about like if they made a Terminator cartoon or something for kids, like how is that gonna work necessarily? Because the movies are violent. You can't tell kids, hey, go see this R-rated movie, like Ghostbusters and Turtles works, but like what is it that we said RoboCop and there's a few R-rated movies that got turned in. Toxic Crusaders, was the Toxic Avenger. So
but you look at something like, let's say, Terminator 2, where Cameron tried to tone down stuff, like instead of just Schwarzenegger shooting people to kill them, because John Connor says you can't kill people, he does worse and shoots them in the legs and the kneecaps. So instead of just killing them, he now cripples everybody for the rest of their lives, which to me is worse than killing them. Yeah, it's like, great. Now you got like 20 cops in wheelchairs.
And he almost does it sarcastically because he looks over at everybody and goes, they'll live. Like they'll live. I won't
they'll
kill
live
them,
in wheelchairs.
But, they'll live in wheelchairs.
Something interesting you're saying there about the shooting them and to cripple them. In RoboCop, he shoots the Ferrer's character and cripples him basically long enough to where he can suffer for a few more minutes before he gets blown up. it was like, oh man, that's hardcore. It's like just didn't go out and kill him, but I don't know.
Yeah, this movie itself was pretty hardcore, and I loved it. Like I loved all the violence, all the gore, the blood, everything. I don't know, like it's so cartoony and so silly at times that I'm just like, I think I enjoy it more because of that. Like if it were, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it did get nominated for a couple Oscars and it won a special achievement Oscar for some sound effects editing. But It was nominated for best sound and best film editing, so it did get some uh, critical love from the so which is a little funny now, because considering how stuffy sometimes those award shows can be, that they would take something so over the top fun like this and give it the time of day.
Well, I think it's mainly because, like, I don't know how many movies were visually like this in 1987, like when you think about the editing and then think about the visual effects, like these are perfect, those are the perfect categories for this movie,
Yeah. Well, I would imagine Predator probably got in there too.
Predator, yeah.
They were making up new categories because the achievements that were being done, like American Werewolf in London, the whole Special Effects Academy Award was because of that movie. So they started to add all these new categories to the Academy Awards.
Yeah,
this was the year after. Yeah, this was the year after Alien. So I mean, the very technical science fiction action stuff was getting to be very well done. Not just.
Are they going to add a new category this year? Best slap? Is there going to be another one?
I'm going to cancel you for that. How dare you?
How dare I? You'd laugh at that too.
Did everybody get a chance to talk about their favorite scene?
No, actually, we didn't all. I don't think we all did. What was your favorite scene, Paul?
So I think my favorite is early on when they first meet the RD or the ED 209, and it malfunctions, and because if you notice, everybody screws everything up. Even the robbers can't steal the money without burning it. But so he's supposed to drop his weapon, and it's like, you have 10 seconds to comply, you have 5 seconds to comply, you have 1 second to comply, and then he just kills him. And then Dan Hurley turns to him and says, "I'm very disappointed in you, Dick." That was just my favorite line. It was just so funny.
It's the corporate attitude,
Right.
Which is sad that they screwed up his character so much in the sequel. So
did they?
Yeah, he then just turns into Ronnie Cox. He's just the evil guy who lounges in hot tubs, and he just wants money, and he doesn't care about the police. And
yeah, definitely.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would they do that? I've never seen Robocop 2. I never did.
It's some people like it better than the first one.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Mm.
It is more of a comic book, that is for sure. But it's where this is a little more serious. But it's some people I've talked to and seen on YouTube and stuff like that think the second one is better.
But it makes no sense to make him the villain, because in this movie he was a great guy. He was sort of.
Well, I mean, he doesn't care too much about the guy being killed.
Well,
or the people of old Detroit getting pushed away for the new city that he's trying to build.
That's true.
He's a corporate guy. I mean, that's money is his thing, but he's not evil. He just wants money.
Right. Same thing with Miguel Ferrer. I mean, his character is the lesser of the evils. He's still a jerk and an asshole, but he's not nearly as bad as Ronnie Cox.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been probably 30 years since I've seen the second one, and I was just looking that up. I didn't realize who directed it and everything. It's like, I was like, I'm glad I got the second one here now.
Who directed the second one?
Irvin Kershner.
Yeah.
Oh hell! Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, huh.
Now I need to see it just because, just to say I've seen it.
It's got some. I just watched it. It has some great moments in it that are absolutely hilarious.
But it's
not nearly as good. No,
not nearly.
The commercials aren't as good, and I hate that there's like a kid villain in it, and there's just some lousies. They wrote it right before the writer's strike. So the two writers had very short time. So the script they turned in, it kind of shows that they didn't have a lot of time to work on
was it the same writers as the original?
More or less. I mean, it had of course Frank Miller, Batman's Frank Miller.
Yeah, Frank Miller's story.
Okay. Yeah. And he helped with the, didn't he direct the third RoboCop, if I'm correct?
No, Fred Decker did.
Okay, Fred Decker directed it. Okay.
I saw RoboCop 2 in the theater also.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did
me too. I saw 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And
go near the third one.
You saw the third one in the theater, John?
Oh yeah, yeah. I went to back in the day. We worked at a movie theater, so we got free
Oh, okay, there
passes.
you go.
But we, for a long time, like 10 years or something, we were idiots, and we would literally go see every single movie that was in the theater. So when the Academy Awards rolled around, we could go, "Oh yeah, we saw that, we saw this, we saw that." We could make up our own list, and then after a while, it just became, "This is too much and stupid. So why are we doing this?" So
yeah,
I
no.
Yeah, so
I sometimes think I'm going to be in that boat too, because I see just about everything now in the theaters. Having that
so
pass is better or worse.
for RoboCop 2, Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner got credit for the characters that they created in the first film, but writing credits, Frank Miller got it for the story, and then he got it also for screenplay, and so did Waylon Green, whom I've never heard of before.
Waylon Green.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm looking him up. Oh, okay, he's been on a bunch of stuff.
he's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
the second one made kind of in the same ballpark as the
Hill
first one
Street,
in the box office.
Hill Street
So
Blues and NYPD Blue co-producer. ER,
Ah.
okay.
LA Confidential.
Well,
Hmm.
there you go.
As producer. No,
Speaking of ER, the redheaded guys in ER. The guy is like, "We killed you." I saw
Oh
him on
yeah,
ER. He's a regular, and I was like, "Whoa,
oh yeah, yeah, he
whoa,
was in
whoa."
ER. Yeah, yeah.
was he?
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
Paul McCrane. Is that Paul McCrane? Yeah, he was also in the Toxic Avenger,
Ooh.
Well, who was he in the Toxic Avenger?
or maybe it was the one where he gets melted. He's the guy that gets melted. So
In
maybe it was,
RoboCop.
yeah, no, yeah,
In RoboCop, he's the one who got melted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's the toxic guy, and yeah,
Okay, so he
Oh yeah.
wasn't in Toxic Avenger, or was
yeah.
he?
He's the guy that has the gun and goes, "I like it."
Yeah.
I love everybody that yeah,
But
was
see
the
that's also during the time period where you had good writers,
Are you
and
a
they
college
cared
boy?
about, you know, am I a college boy?
Remember that's what he said to the guy in the
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, at the gas station, and the guy's like,
yeah. Yes, for a bullet.
Well, yeah, because they asked him for his book, and he picked up his like calculus book or something like that, and showed him.
you a
"Hey,
college boy?
are you smart enough to outrun a bullet?"
yeah, that was he was probably one of my favorite characters in the movie.
But see, you know all of them. Like you know all
Yeah,
these guys. Even how
yeah,
many years later, you still know these guys. Even Ray Weiss, young Ray
right.
Weiss, is in there, and
Yep,
you care. But these
Wait,
days,
Ray
can you
Wise or Ray Weiss?
Wise.
wise.
Wise?
Who was
Did
he
I
in
say
that in the movie? I don't
He's
He's
remember.
one of the,
he's Leon
he's one
Nash.
at the nightclub.
Yeah, the guy I was talking about
Oh,
the nightclub.
Yeah, he was like
okay.
the second in charge guy.
And Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Boddicker. That was like his best role. And then
Yeah,
people don't know him from this, they knew him from the TV show.
Yeah, they know him from that '70s show.
Right.
where he's
Okay,
still kind of scary.
I got a funny story to tell you guys, and this is gonna be very embarrassing for me, so just get ready. When I was at Texas Frightmare, I think like the first year that I was there, I saw Lance Henriksen, at the thing. And I wanted to, and I told my friends, I want to go up there and tell them how much I loved him in RoboCop. I got RoboCop and Terminator mixed up somehow
Uh,
or whatever. And my friend was like, he wasn't in RoboCop. I was like, yeah, he was the guy with the gun going din din din. He was like, oh my God, that's the father from that '70s show and everything. And I was like, what are you talking? And then I looked up, I'm like, oh shit. He was like, and my friend was like, go ahead, go tell him you liked him in RoboCop. I dare you.
I wish you would have brought a RoboCop poster to Lance Hendrickson to have him sign. That would have been great.
That would have been hilarious. He would have been like, I bet he would have signed it.
Well,
Still.
like on Big Bang Theory, where they want Stan Lee to sign like a DC comic book
Yeah.
because they figure it will be really rare.
Nobody else will have it until the other guy's like, I want to get him to sign my DC book. And he's like,
and don't forget Dan O'Hurley, who was in a ton of stuff all the way back from Orson Welles' days. Of course, in that movie that Moody that you love that I can't stand, Halloween 3.
Yeah, Paul, we were talking about that. Yeah, I had to mention
Joe
that
loves
because
it too. So
Oh, for
yeah.
God's
Oh,
sake,
A3's good.
so bad.
Tom
How
Atkins is
how dare you?
awesome.
Yeah, see,
This is the
everybody's
guy who
against
does
you, Paul. I'm
like The
sorry.
Graduate.
That's because you're all children. You weren't there when you ripped off back when it first came out.
I know this is a guy that hates Chud too, so it's okay.
Well,
Paul,
that's
Halloween,
it. Ain't
Paul,
no
Halloween,
chud.
Bud
Paul,
the
Halloween
Chud.
3's got such an evil
Yep.
underlying. They're trying to kill all the kids in the world. That is demented and just twisted. And
I
then it
know.
plays over. It's just it's a
Oh,
fun
I don't
film,
know.
but I know.
I get that feeling in a restaurant every now and again.
Right. So how
Or
could
on
you
a plane,
not be
yeah.
excited about this movie? You know.
Well,
You know,
because
you
when it
know-
originally came out, maybe you guys are too young, but when it originally came out, the film sucked. Where's Michael Myers?
Yes.
And then all of us
Yes.
got really excited
Ripped
for
off.
Prince of Darkness because it had Donald Pleasance. And we're like, oh shit, maybe this is like a secret Halloween movie and it's going to be Michael Myers. Nope. And it's, what the hell?
I
and
still
then-
love Prince of Darkness.
Over the years, Halloween 3 is, now I love it. But, back then it was very maddening because
Oh,
I got to meet
Carpenter.
Tom Atkins. I got to meet Tom Atkins at Scares the Care, and it's so funny because I was like, "Hey, how you doing, Tom?" He's like, "Hey," just like he did in his movies. It's just so funny. He's like, he said, "Hey" to me. I know that sounds funny, but
Well, I always think of him, The Fog and Humanoids from the Deep, two of my favorite movies from back then.
Humanoids
Yeah.
is great. With Doug McClure.
I got to get a
Troy McClure.
I got to meet Adrienne Barbeau because of Alfred, by the way. Alfred
Nice.
wanted something signed and from Adrienne
Oh,
Barbeau.
yeah.
So I got to go and meet her and everything. That was pretty cool because I wasn't planning to get anything signed from her, but I did want to meet her, and stuff. She was super sweet,
Gosh, there's
but-
so much. There's a handful of good things get signed from her for movies. I mean, she's done some good
Right.
stuff.
Well, we talked about earlier that most of us were on the minus John, but all of us were on the Fog, show. That's how we started Film Freaks.
Which
know.
was shot up in not too far from where I lived up in Northern California.
Well,
so I've seen that location, the Birds location, that stuff.
Well, we wish that you could have been in the first episode with all of us, when we were there.
The only thing I have to say about Humanoids from the Deep is I'm glad that Vic Morrow didn't lose his head over it.
Yeah. Ugh. Too soon.
Yeah,
Too soon.
too soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
too soon. It's been like 20 years.
It was like 40, hadn't it?
Yeah, see, even further.
Even further. Probably, I almost feel like 50,
It
I
was
know,
like early
but-
80s, somewhere in there.
There's a guy on the wing of the plane.
So let's, I guess, so we talked about our favorite scenes. Was there anything you guys didn't like about this movie?
Yes. The
What?
last effect
Oh,
of
yes.
Ronnie Cox falling out the window is one of the
Oh,
worst
that's
special
awful.
effects.
I was going to
Ever
say it's
done.
a little sloppy. It was a little sloppy. At
His
times.
arms are like 10 feet long.
They look like Freddy Krueger when Freddy
turned
Krueger
into
went
Mr.
like
Stretch.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same
because
thing.
like, when did Die Hard come out? Because Hans Gruber falling out of the window looked 10 billion times better than
I
that.
think 2 years later.
Yeah,
or
it was
a
within a
year.
year or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was only a year or two later.
Same thing happens when Weller's character gets shot in the beginning and they shoot his hand off, and then when they start shooting him, his whole arm is gone. And it's like, wait a second, continuity. There
Well,
were a
it
few
depends on what version you're
observations.
watching. Are
Well,
you
yeah,
watching the
that-
R-rated version or the unrated version? The unrated
Yeah, the un-
version, his arm gets blown off. The R-rated version, yeah, they cut all that violence out.
Yeah, I think the R-rated version makes it look sloppier because they had to cut it back and change, some of the scenes. But in the unrated version, it is like his whole body is like destroyed or whatever. And they did that on purpose
Swiss
so
cheese.
that because, they needed somebody that would, basically just be just a little bit of his body left, to put into the suit because they didn't want they didn't want his legs in there and all this other stuff. They didn't need that. They just basically needed his head and his brain.
They just don't get it. And the MPA still don't get it today, with stuff. It just doesn't. Even some Friday the 13th Part 7, Kane Hodder hitting a girl, or Jason, hitting a girl against a tree that's in a sleeping bag once is much more violent than hitting her 10 times. Because then it
10
becomes
times
funny.
is so silly. But they rectified that with Jason X, where he just kept doing it and stuff or whatever, because the MPA, I guess, had changed their, kind of thing on it or whatever.
Me too, Jason Voorhees. Me too.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I liked that scene is probably my least favorite scene, probably too. So anybody else have a scene that they didn't like in the movie?
I wouldn't say so much didn't like it, but it's like all him getting shot up, all that stuff, but nothing ever happened to his face.
Yeah, they never
nothing ever happened to his face.
Well,
watch the face, guys. Watch the face.
They did shoot him in the head.
That's the bunny face.
But when he took the helmet off, I don't think that there was anything on his forehead like he was shot in the head.
That's true.
When he drilled it off.
The bullet wound. Just
you
the
do?
bullet
Okay.
wound. That's right here.
Okay.
But nothing else. Yeah, like he doesn't have a scar or anything like that. Yeah, it's just the old bullet wound, which is weird. Is you would think if they could build him into a cyborg that they could cover that up. Why not just put some fake piece of flesh on there to cover it up?
Another thing that is an example of it being a little sloppy. If you recall, one of the first guys he goes out and punishes is the guy in the store. He's like ripping off the old lady and the old man. He's like, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me. He's like, you're under arrest. He just knocks him into a plate glass thing and then just leaves him. He never arrests him. Doesn't do anything. He just leaves him there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I figured out why he does that, because he does that throughout the whole thing. He calls it in. We never see it, but that's the only reason that I could think of why he does that is he knocks the guy out, gets back in the car off screen, and calls in like a squad car to arrest.
And if I saw him actually calling it in, I'd believe it. But since he doesn't,
we could only go off what we see.
I think that was a big mistake. They should have, if they were going to go that route, they should have had a scene where he just calls somebody and says something. Or
killing Ed Norton was a mistake.
What was that, Alfred?
Edward Norton.
Oh, whoever killing Edward Norton was a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake. As you were saying, it was a mistake, so I was just trying to weave some movie dialogue into your conversation.
Yeah, it was Morton, I think, not Norton. Yeah, because Edward Norton is a different person altogether.
He's the king of Jerusalem.
He's the Hulk. So, the Incredible Hulk.
And a Nazi.
Oh, and a Nazi at one point.
Yeah.
One of my I really like the part where they have one of the best gunfights right before Connor's body spills the beans, and it's like when he's at the warehouse and he talks Clarence's dialogue with Sal, and then when Robocop comes, you're all under us, and when he lines up everybody's targets, it's like he's got them like all targeted, and the guy's like, oh, fuck you, and then it just says carnage for like the next 10 minutes. So I was like, when I was a kid, I was like, holy cow, that is just bananas.
But you notice that was back in the 80s when Uzis were still cool. I'll never forget, Uzis were like the big thing in Escape from New York, because Snake Plissken was using them, and then everybody was using them, and was using them, and then hit the 90s, and then you don't see Uzis anymore. They're passe, I guess.
Because everybody owns one now.
I think it was also maybe a thing of 80s had like a lot of silly gun violence, all that stuff. 90s, that the action movies were different. Action movies weren't as silly and goofy. They were more like serious, and shit. They're look at Dolph Lundgren movies are still going to be Dolph Lundgren movies, even today. But some of them are not as silly and whatnot.
In the 80s, you would some guy would always come up with some big, giant, ridiculous, overly huge weapon that's supposed to be impressive. And
Commando,
like Robocop.
Commando.
Yeah.
RoboCop had
Commando
that
is
big
awesome.
bazooka and that like or rocket launcher or whatever it was that like fucking took out Ed 209 at the end.
Even his handgun, he's like firing 5,000 rounds with a freaking handgun with no ammunition loading in.
Yeah.
Another bit of
Well,
sloppiness.
yeah, it was all fun back then until Boys in the Hood came out. And then all of a sudden it was all about cops shooting people and them shooting back, and the guns didn't become fun anymore.
That's true.
It was all comic books before that. And then all of a sudden it was, gangs killing each other. And then
it was very comic booky because if you notice in that scene when they're all shooting at him and then Clarence Boddicker's there with his handgun. Meanwhile, like 15 people are shooting this guy with Uzis and AKs and doing nothing. So why are you still there with your little handgun thinking you're going to do anything? Why aren't you running away like a smart person?
I think transitioning to the 90s though, we went from like the party rock music to the grunge music. So the movies went from the cartoonish violence of like the Robocop and stuff like that to the Boys in the Hood, and it started going. The 90s was just a lot more, I'll say, serious in retrospect compared to the 80s.
You look at Tarantino and his stuff; those were more serious shit.
Yeah, he started out in the early 90s too. So
yeah. But that was like sort of, I think he sort of started a whole different trend on action and
it's about escapism by the time you hit the 90s.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things that he did was like almost like not comic book violence, but it became deliberate. I'm trying to think of the word escapes me right now, but it was just a different kind. It was getting dark. But it's just like, like RoboCop was just like you said, comic booky, and this is starting to get realistic violence.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to see Boys in the Hood cereal or Boys in the Hood,
right?
Comic books or Quentin Tarantino's not going to put out a musical based on, you know what I'm saying? You did that in the 80s and made toys and comic books and games and stuff for kids because it's basically a comic book. Yeah.
I'll just say though, that people like Robert Rodriguez sort of brought that 80s back with stuff like Desperado had the people like flying through the air when that probably wouldn't happen, or whatever. When they shoot somebody, it's not going to make them fly like a million miles away or whatever. I think but it's fun.
A lot of that went to Hong Kong with Hard Boiled and John Woo's stuff.
Yeah.
Which is where Tarantino got it from. Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember as a little kid in the 70s where the violence, was pretty over the top too, but that was given a lot worse criticism, especially people like who's the Italian director, the one who did all the
Sergio
movies. Yeah, well, him and then the other guy who was always people getting Sam Peckinpah. Sam Peckinpah got a lot of criticism.
Peckinpah's
so it's interesting to see how guns and violence and all that has transitioned and changed over the years, but it's always going to get criticism no matter what way you're going to do it.
But when you look at somebody like Peckinpah and Tarantino, once again, it does kind of go back to comic books because look at Reservoir Dogs. I mean, it's so many bullets and blood that it's to the point of being funny. And Pulp Fiction when Travolta shoots the guy's head off in the car, that's funny. I remember the entire audience laughing. And Peckinpah's the same thing. Look at the Wild Bunch.
To say back to the Pulp Fiction, the John Travolta getting shot on the toilet, after coming back from the toilet, or whatever.
He's sitting on the toilet. Oh no.
He gets up and comes out.
He gets up and then falls onto the toilet.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's it. So
did y'all ever see Monty Python's Sam Peckinpah's salad?
Yes, very funny. Yeah,
I have not, but that sounds awesome. I'll have to.
Tennis,
check that
anyone?
out.
Yeah, it's very funny.
And with the director of this, he came back and did Starship Troopers later in the 90s, which kind of had the same comic booky type of feel, and it had the commercials and stuff like that, the over the top type of stuff. So I mean, it tried. If I remember correctly, I think Starship Troopers kind of bombed. It didn't do that well. I mean, it might have did all right, but
did well enough to get 3 movies or whatever out of it.
I know, right?
And a cartoon. Yeah.
I'm doing my part.
He's quoting lines for Starship Troopers now,
and I don't remember that movie as much as I should.
Good bugs. Yeah, the only good bug's a dead bug and stuff like that. Yeah. But
That
Which
movie,
is
I mean,
funny if you watch Aliens, it's ripping off Starship Troopers. The book
You-
came
Mm.
first, then Aliens, and then the movie for Starship Troopers. But as much
Huh.
as I love Cameron, he's never made an original movie in his entire life. And Aliens is Starship Troopers. That's
This is
all it
going to be
is.
another bug hunt.
Yeah,
And if I'm not Go
you're
ahead,
saying
John.
over?
Sorry.
oh no, well, like
I was gonna say-
Terminator and stuff, So I'll take it from something else.
Costume. A lot of that Starship Trooper stuff was recycled in what's the Western show that? Gosh darn it. Yeah, you got John or Jonathan. We did a show on it. The TV series that got canceled.
Oh,
Oh, you
Firefly.
talk about space
Firefly.
above and beyond.
No, she was talking about Firefly.
Oh, okay. Because
Joss
that's the one that
Whedon's-
reminded me of Space Above and Beyond, where they had those bug people.
Yeah, they
Last two
reused the
seasons.
costumes from Starship Troopers and Firefly for the bad guys.
Oh, cool. Did not know that. Yeah. That was a great show. But yeah, it's so weird. You say Sam Peckinpah with like the Wild Bunch and stuff, and the violence in that, and then you look at stuff like this, but then you look at movies like you guys said Boys to Men, not Boys to Men.
Boys to Men.
Boys to Men.
Boys, their music is very gangsta.
There you go. There you go.
Menace
No Count
to Society, I think.
That's I think I was getting both Boys in the Hood and Menace to
I think we've come to
Society.
the end of the road here.
Maybe that's where I don't know. That's where they came up with it. I don't know.
Those Bone Thugs in Harmony. But speaking of music, what do y'all think of the score for this Basil Polidorus? I think he knocked it out of the park.
Oh, he did a great job.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Didn't
very good.
you say, Alfred, that before you started we started this podcast, you were listening to the soundtrack a little bit of it?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
a big fan?
Yeah, I love Basil Polidorus, but just the soundtrack is for years you couldn't find it until Napster came out, and then I don't know where I found that stuff. But then it's like if you put it on your Echo, you just say Echo, or I don't want to say it because I'll summon it and just start playing stuff. But if you just say it, it's a play Robocop soundtrack. It's a Robocop soundtrack from 1987.
Someone may have to explain to the children in the audience what Napster was.
Well, they still have like, stuff like that, right? With like, I don't know if LimeWire or LimeWire or whatever it was that still
I don't think
exists.
any of this exists anymore.
Well, I think so because I know was it movie ones still exists, ones that you can take from movies, rip movies off or whatever.
I just go to that sketchy Russian porn site.
I know, you get everything in your sketchy Russian.
For whatever reason, has all these other movies instead of porn. And don't ask me why, but they do.
Because they're sketchy.
And the same guy who did the music for this also did Starship Troopers. So he's done a bunch
That's
of
right.
Nice.
That
Do you
makes
work
sense.
with Paul Verhoeven a lot? Is that it?
I think, yeah, well, he did Robocop 2. That's all Paul Verhoeven, but he also did Robocop 2. I don't know if he did Robocop 3, but he also did like Return to the Blue Lagoon.
Red
He did a
Dawn.
bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, Red
oh
Dawn.
yeah, yeah.
Conan, didn't he do Conan or something?
Yeah, Conan the Barbarian and
Conan.
Hunt for Red October.
Oh, nice.
You guys
So-
just named like 3 or 4 movies that all had remakes done on it in the past like 15 years. It's like I was like,
I
Red
know.
Les
Dawn.
Mis. They did Les Mis.
Yeah, it's
They
like
also got a
all
remake.
these. It's like remake.
God, that remake of Red Dawn was so bad.
Oh,
So
God,
bad.
terrible.
He also did Celtic
Fuck.
Pride, a Judd Apatow produced and written movie, which wasn't terrible,
I
but
remember.
not something I would expect needed a good score. I'm looking him up. I'm trying to see if he did. I guess he didn't do. He did Intruder. Interesting. The Scott Spiegel movie.
I
That's
don't know.
crazy.
Maybe
Really?
it's just me. I can't think of a single Judd Apatow movie that isn't just mediocre.
Well, you're mediocre.
Uh-huh.
There you go. There you
There's
go.
a fire back.
Well
Man.
played.
No, you
Keep-
don't. You
keep
don't
these
mess
guys
around with my Judd
back. Keep them
Apatow stuff.
back.
I just did.
I don't care. You can go.
Off to the boring, mediocre
Moody and I like Judd
Hollywood
Apatow.
film.
So
I know
What's
you
wrong
do.
with like 40-year-old virgin and stuff like that? I mean,
Eh.
You're fun. I
yeah,
like
I mean,
them.
it's not going to change the world, but I mean, it's good release
did-
entertainment.
it did save The Office, though. They were going to cancel it because that film was a hit. They kept The Office on
really?
the air. Yeah. it was-
Oh, nice. Well,
Talking about the
good.
American Office.
Yeah, the
the
American
American one.
Office with Steve
But yeah,
Carell.
'cause the American one was like what 200 episodes. The original like only like 15 episodes or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Though
Yeah.
the
original was
British
great,
and
but
they're three
the British one
episodes.
is great.
Yeah, like 3 episodes a
Great.
season or something. Jesus.
Yeah,
You know, they have
But
definitely
the
have a
original
list.
had Ricky Gervais, though, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the
Yes.
creator of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one who
Yeah.
did the first.
He was on
Office.
one episode of the American version.
and that was probably the best clip from the entire American version of The Office when them two cross paths. Michael Scott and Ricky Gervais, the two of them just met in an elevator, and it was like priceless because they just looked at each other and gave each other like a stare because it was the same character basically.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
to go back to RoboCop,
We went
we
off
always
the
do
rails
go
a
a
little
little
bit.
Meanwhile,
off
back at
topic.
Stay
but,
on target.
We're
Stay on
gonna
target.
we'll go and say basically our last final thoughts on it. So I guess I'll start with Joe. What are your final thoughts on this movie?
I bought that for $1.
You did. You literally did.
I literally did, and it's I'm glad to revisit it. It brought back some good memories, and from the talking and all, I kind of dismissed part 2. I'm gonna have to give it another shake. It's
Me
been
too.
a number of years.
I've never seen it, so I'd have to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah. What about
I
you?
mean,
Paul?
I own it now. It's only gonna be an hour and a half, 2 hours of my time now.
Nice.
I mean,
What-
technically, it does follow my Star Wars trilogy anthology. So, that if you go with the people who like part 2 better, then, Robocop would be good. Robocop 2 is great, and Robocop 3 is
I wouldn't go with that probably even if I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'll let you know. I'll let you know what my thoughts are when I see it. What about you, Paul? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a bit of a relic from that time period, but it's a good popcorn movie.
Definitely. What about you, Alfred?
There's you grab some popcorn, enjoy the ride. There's a point where I watched this movie so many times I got saturated by it. So I didn't watch it for like maybe 15 years, and I started watching it again because back then, like several movies, all you did was get one video cassette, and then movies just weren't. You just watch the same one over and over, or just when HBO came on, or it was on whatever, cable TV thing. They usually play the same thing over and over. So I got tired of it, but it can keep going back to it. No, I'm gonna enjoy it each time and try to notice the different things in it. So, but yeah, I liked it.
You like it. That was good.
I
That was
like it.
good. What about you, John?
Well, if Joe bought his for $1, then I bought the remake at used prices on eBay. So, that's all I can say about that. I think it would probably be I think one of the best films ever made. Because it was groundbreaking, and a lot of films came from it. So, I mean, it would probably be somewhere in like the top 50 type of things.
Yeah.
But it's just the first film alone, I think could, you would put it in there with The Terminator, the first one, and some other movies that if you had like a time capsule, probably for science fiction or action movies, RoboCop could go right in there.
I
Oh,
put it
I
right
thought
there
it
with
was
you. I put it right there with Universal Soldier because that one always holds a special spot to me.
And
By the way,
Universal
Moody-
Soldiers 2 and 3, and then 2 and 3 again when Van Damme got involved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, Moody, I wanted to let you know that S.D. Nemeth, who's the guy that plays I'd buy that for $1.
right.
He was in a short film called Sinister Flesh, sort of a short horror film, and I've got it. So we are going to watch it for short reviews.
Does he
So-
say I'll buy that for $1?
No, but he plays a hunchback, so it's kind of fun.
Do Paul, did you download this from one of the sketchy Russian porn sites?
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. That's the sketchy
Oh,
porn site.
so this was a legitimate capture.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. It is not on the top 100 best movies of AFI. Which movie called Shane is up there, and I've never even
it's a
heard of
western.
that one.
That's a western.
Oh, that's why I haven't
Yeah.
heard of it.
Did you say Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Moody
Shane.
needs westerns.
Oh yeah, Shane. Yeah, it's
I'm not a
classic.
big
Yeah.
Western fan.
Well, we never talked about this in Robocop, but the way that he puts his gun in his leg and all, it seems
Very
almost like a
Western.
holster for a
Very
western.
Western.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, because of TJ Laser, aka TJ Hooker, which was basically the basis of that. But he was his son watches TJ Laser, so
he does
he
the
mimics
spinning.
it. You know?
But Robocop in a way is a Western. I mean, Robocop would be the sheriff, the deputy would be, Alan, and then, the other cops, that would be part of his team, and then the bad guys roll into town. And it is a Western. I mean,
they have shootouts and
yeah,
different stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can consider it some sort of Western, but it was
you have the isolation moment right there at the end, right before he takes them all out and stuff like that, where he drills and get to his head and stuff like that. That's the isolation moment right before the big
stuff like High
fire.
Noon and some of these.
Exactly.
You're just missing the chaps and the horse.
High Noon is on the list of 100 movies, but apparently RoboCop is not. I mean, it's tough because
High Noon's good stuff. I mean,
I know. Well, and that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of great movies out there, or whatever, and I get it if this isn't high up. It's high on my list, on my top 20, but it's not a lot on everybody's because especially AFI, man, they've got to be a little bit picky, or whatever. But I'm wondering if that'll ever change, if like their answers will ever change, like
106.9 The Fox is playing Soundgarden and Jane's Addiction. So if 106.9 considers that classic music, then anything goes.
I think Moody, I think it will change in the future because as the voting audience gets different generations, because the older generations pass away, and like some people who don't watch westerns per se or something like that, some of those will get less votes in the future if they redo those type of lists. So it's going to skew younger.
Who's on the American Film Institute? Like, who's in that? Like who judges these things?
Not I, said the duck.
Yeah, none of us are, but
I would have to admit this is probably not on my top 100 list either, but it would make the top 200.
But yeah, you've got a list, man.
Man, I've seen a lot of movies.
I know. You probably see more movies
Even the
than I
top
have.
200 is good.
Well, and that's the thing. This movie is one of those kind of movies where I would watch over and over again. Alfred talked about it a little bit, but like I would watch it on Betamax back in the day. I had a Betamax of it, and I just constantly watch it on repeat. This and Terminator 2.
I think something with this and being on best lists and stuff like that. It's just what are you saying? Is it like a favorite movie or best movie? Because then you're talking two different things. And this being a favorite movie, something you could repeatedly watch, it might not be something like the more like AFI stuff that might be quote unquote more artistically sound or however you want to say it. That's
right.
Best, but favorite is more repeated viewing. But
best might be like more like Schindler's List, where it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, this has got nostalgia for me going for it, so it's more on a favorite 200 top 200 list.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little too sloppy to be on a BFI kind of list.
Yeah. It's like if you're comparing this to say like Doctor Strangelove or something like that. I mean, you're talking like esteemed like quality perfection almost.
Right. You guys did that for Film Freaks or Criterion Watch too, right?
Yeah, I think we did it for Criterion. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I'm not saying this in any way to insult RoboCop because that's not what it is. Because you need movies to enjoy, and that's what a lot of movies are, is to just simply enjoy. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, this was on Criterion for Laserdisc. It was not. It has not been brought on to Blu-ray, and I mean, Arrow has a nice 4K of it, so like, I mean, it's out there, you know, better, but just saying.
these lists, they have to change because it's like, okay, like a band. A band comes out with 2 albums, they play everything from those 2 albums. Then they have 3 albums, you know, when they're on tour, and then they have to knock out a few songs because now they have 3 albums. When they get up to 10 albums, now it maybe is 1 song per album. So at some point, you know, Citizen Kane may leave the number 1 spot, you know, because you have things, unless they're going to go 101, 102, 103, stuff has to get booted out. And with the way that people are these days with cancel culture and wokeness and all that stuff, I'm surprised that things haven't been kicked out, like Gone with the Wind and, you know, Breakfast at Tiffany's and all that. And then they do get replaced with other movies.
Yeah, movies like, to your point, that Blazing Saddles is another one. I mean, it's like something that's so funny, but there's no way that can be made now, and it's the cancel culture, the Karen.
I love Blazing Saddles. I can't stand Gone with the Wind.
So Gone with the Wind is still up there.
I saw Gone with the Wind for the first time during COVID, and I was sitting there at the end like, what? Yeah, it's a nice film to look at, but I was just like, at the very end, I was like, thank God he left her. I was like, God, this is annoying.
Boring soap opera.
Yeah.
I remember Blazing Saddles being on the list, on this 100 list. It is not on. Oh,
where are the white people at?
It's still not on here. Blade Runner is, and
there you go.
Swing Time.
You know, honestly, as the voting people gets younger and stuff like that, so it's more into our generation and younger. Blade Runner could evolve up the list because that's a well-loved film over the younger generation universally. So stuff like that could move up.
I would just love to see like an updated list.
At the time, it was considered a bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Oh yeah, it was a big bomb. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these movies are big bombs, and then they go out. Except for this one, obviously, this one actually made some good money.
Friend of mine, a good friend of mine. It's his favorite film. So it's like, I mean, it's
Blade Runner.
It's in my top 3.
Yeah, but see, I mean, also we were talking earlier about Full Metal Jacket. I mean, Stanley Kubrick's your favorite director, pretty much, or one of them. One of your favorite directors, Paul. So like,
probably my favorite.
You know, yeah, like I would say that of like the Hollywood like elite, you know, directors, that's your favorite. You know, I don't know though.
He's not really Hollywood elite though. He left the Hollywood system, you know, pretty early in his career.
That's true, but he still made big budgeted movies, you know, or whatever. They weren't small indie movies.
Yeah, he might have left the system, but he's still respected by the general system in a prestige sort of way for looking at his library.
Because he can make a movie better than any of the people in the Hollywood system, and he just didn't want to deal with anybody else telling him what he could do with his film. So, yeah.
I still think the miniseries for The Shining is better than Kubrick's Shining. There, I said it.
Oh,
there, I said it.
Right.
It should say Kubrick.
Gloves have been thrown down.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the miniseries by Nick Garris, you know, is the book. That's why Stephen King's The Shining. It's the book. Kubrick is not the book. So
no, it's 100 times better.
Oh no, Kubrick did not understand
100 times, 1,000 times.
Visually, it's a beautiful film, but Kubrick did not understand the book at all.
No, he just didn't like it. He thought it was subpar, so he
don't make it.
So it was
don't
better.
Make it. Don't make it. Go.
You know what?
So much better.
You should do two filmmakers reviewing one film and do The Shining, but do The Shining versus The Shining, and I hope to see you guys really debate it.
And I'm going to say this: Jack Nicholson is horribly miscast. Horribly
get out of here!
Miscast.
He was great in this film.
He was a psycho at the beginning. He was a psycho in the middle, and he was a psycho at the end. There was no change of character at all for him.
I wouldn't say that. He was.
I don't think he was a full psycho at the beginning. He was a bit off the top, but I mean, he had a twitch to him, but he wasn't broken. I mean, he broke in that movie.
Yeah,
at least I think so.
In a big way.
Even though he was miscast as the Joker, in Batman because the Joker's not fat, he's thin, but it's just his character as the gangster was very different than the Joker. So there was a complete backwards and and forwards for that. But as him as
Do you want
Jack
to
Torrance,
knock his
no.
performance in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest too? Or are you gonna?
No, that actually he was
truth.
good in. That's all he did in The Shining was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
And let me just preface all this by saying that John Ward actually likes The Terror. Okay,
I do like
that.
I think it's a good
such
film.
A boring movie. And I got Jack Nicholson.
And
but he also said good things about that one movie we reviewed. Remember the one?
I did not understand your rating system because your rating system that did not make sense at the time to me. So
okay. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, I'll agree.
I
really did
think
not like it. It's just the way you came up.
I think there needs to be a deeper dive into either whether it's just The Shining or Nicholson in general, because that could be some very interesting conversation there.
I think so too. Like I love that. Like that you guys are arguing.
Only
about
if we make Moody watch 5 Easy Pieces all over again.
That's a good movie.
Moody, we want you to hold that movie between your knees.
I know. That's the best scene in that fucking movie.
That.
That is the best scene in that movie. The rest of that shit made me
Bob
so
Rafelson. What are you
sleepy.
talking about? Nicholson did his best with Bob Rafelson.
I know, but that movie he didn't do his best with.
Thanks to Bob Rafelson, Nicholson has a career.
Maybe, but he was the.
No, it's not. It's not a maybe. It all happened on the Monkees movie Head in 1968. That's where it all came together.
That's where it came to a head. All right. Well, there we go.
There's a lot of people that said Easy Rider is really kind of what started his career. So I don't know.
No, Easy Rider started his film career, but he got to that point because of Bob Rafelson and the Monkees film Head, because Nicholson was one of the writers on Head. He was one of the producers on Head. He also was in the film Head. He was the music supervisor on Head, and he followed the Monkees around for a month writing the script with them.
I have the Criterion box set of those movies, right? So it's got 5 Easy Pieces, it's got Easy Rider, it's got Head, it's got King of Marvin's Gardens, Last Picture Show, a bunch of really great. The Last Picture Show is probably
Last Picture Show is great.
Oh, I love that movie.
I saw that for the first time a couple years ago as well, and that was oh man.
And I'm gonna do that for Criterion Watch at some point because it's there. That's just a classic. I'll have Joe.
And in Head is Dennis Hopper.
There you go.
So basically, the core, almost all the core people from Easy Rider are in Head.
Talk about your psycho players. There's one right there.
Well, there you go. Wasn't the Terror? Wasn't he in the Terror too, or something as well?
No, just Nicholson. Yeah, just.
So I'm saying Nicholson was he? He was in the Terror.
Well, that's because they had like 2 days. They had 2 days left from the Raven.
Two other people walking around the set that they already had, so they're like, "Oh, let's just throw together some."
The same thing happened with Little Shop of Horrors. Pretty much.
Well, that was a bet.
Okay.
That he could make a film in 2 days,
and he did.
And Corman was, Roger Corman. I mean, Nicholson worked a lot with Roger Corman.
Yeah.
So
that's how he got
this was Roger Corman squeezing a nickel until it cried out in pain.
I watched something else that Corman directed with Nicholson. I can't remember what it is now. It's something where they just drove around. It was like an early '60s film. He was just riding around in a car for a while and stuff like that. I think Corman directed it, but it was Nicholson, one of his first movies. It's off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Probably something like The Trip or one of those.
I think it was The Trip now. It was on like Tubi or something like that. I was like, oh, Nicholson.
There's a lot of Roger Corman movies, like old school Roger Corman movies on Tubi that I love. Like
he's the GOAT. He's the best. Roger Corman is literally the
greatest of all time.
Yeah. Without him, look how many people we wouldn't have. If he was not around, we wouldn't have all these filmmakers and actors.
That's true.
I mean, even behind the scenes stuff, we wouldn't have any of these people. And I'm going to say this
Cameron.
Cameron, Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Joe Dante, all of them. But I'm going to say this to Paul. I'm sorry, dude. I would rather watch a miniseries with Rebecca De Mornay instead of Shelley Duvall. She is not nice to look at, and Rebecca
Oh,
remains.
boo!
So
You don't watch them just because of the way they look at it. You watch them because
oh,
they're
I do.
a good actor.
Yeah, and they're great. I mean,
I,
Shelley Duvall is amazing in that
I'm
movie.
sorry, but if you give me the choice, I'm going to go with the better looking. So
How did we get from
Shut up.
Robocop? How did we get from Robocop to Shining? That's kind of interesting.
That's
That-
just
that
how
was-
Film
that-
Freaks
because you
works,
guys
man.
started talking about Full Metal Jacket, I think.
I
Oh,
think
there
it
you go.
really did start with that.
Because
And Kubrick is
it was the
So
There
we
you
talk
go.
Popeye?
Ooh, Popeye, the
Oh,
Sailor
kind-
Man.
Popeye.
Kind of boring. Kind of
Oh,
boring.
I don't
Yeah, very.
know.
That was disappointing. That was kind of disturbing. I don't know what it was about, but that movie.
I
Great-
gotta
freaked
go.
me out
great
as a kid.
I'm not
prosthetics.
feeling great, so I'm gonna sign off. But you guys, please continue to talk, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
All
Well,
right,
we-
thank you, Paul.
Bye,
Thank you for
Paul.
coming in, even though you're sick.
Bye.
All right, bye.
You feel well, brother.
Yeah.
Oh
And-
well,
and-
I think
and-
we're about to end it anyway. So
Well, we do need to have a conversation in the future. Now, I like to be on that, John. You and Paul and I with the Nicholson talk, Shining possibly, and maybe some more other stuff in there too. But that would be a
Yeah.
very, very good talk.
I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I'm a Stephen King purist, and so for me, I agree with him about The Shining, which is why later it was called Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and why the miniseries was Stephen King's The Shining. I think the book is great. There's also one or two short stories that were chapters that were missing from the book, that were like the history
Gotcha.
of the Overlook. And Mick Garris, I thought, did a great job with the miniseries.
Oh,
And-
Mick Garris is always good with fucking King. You know.
Yeah. And Dr. Sleep, Mike Flanagan, I thought did
Yeah.
a
I
great
like that
job
movie a
of
lot.
yeah, it combined both the miniseries, the movie, and the book. So
So
And Doctor
it's-
Sleep, when the music started playing from the original movie, I just lost my shit. Like, oh my god, that is awesome.
oh, that's a good soundtrack
Well-
from the original. Yeah.
Well,
Mike
I thi- I
Flanagan
think-
can
I think-
do what? Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think with what you just said, John, about the Stephen King purist, that's the difference between the two. And if you watch The Shining with Nicholson, not from a purist standpoint, I think that's a big difference, and I can understand where you're coming from there. Not that I agree with the fact of bringing The Shining down. It's just I think it's,
Well,
to your point, it is a little different than the book.
there are three people that I think can really do King justice, and that is Mike Flanagan, as we
Yes.
said, and he's done it multiple times, different projects. Also, Mick Garris
Mick Garris.
can do a great job writing, and don't forget Frank Darabont doing all the
Oh yeah,
doing all
Darabont?
the
Well-
more serious, less
yeah,
horror stuff.
Shawshank,
Except
Yeah,
stuff like
Green
that.
Mile.
Dreamcatcher was, I
And
think that was.
Shawshank, yeah.
Well, no, he didn't do Dreamcatcher.
Didn't he? He didn't do Dreamcatcher?
No, that was
No,
Lawrence
I'm
Kasdan.
thinking of Shawshank, that he did Shawshank.
Shawshank.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did Shawshank.
He did that,
and
the Green Mile,
and The Mist.
and the Mist. The Mist was what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Sorry, I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Mike Flanagan, yeah, I agree with that too. With obviously with Doctor Sleep and just other stuff that Mike Flanagan's done. I mean, that the Midnight Mass, which I absolutely love. I mean, that
Could
a
you
very
imagine if Mick Garris, Mike Flanagan, and Frank Darabont got together and made a movie of like a Stephen King movie? Like that would just, I mean, that would blow my mind. I don't know. I don't know how
I would
could
hope
handle-
that'd be good. I would hope. But
Like
don't forget George Romero. I would throw him in there.
Yeah.
Creep
yeah.
Show and
Creepshow.
and his adaptation of The Dark Half is perfect. Like
Mhm.
it is literally the book. I mean, it's like 99.9% the book. It's the best adaptation I've ever seen.
Cool.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
well. The latest Stephen King movie wasn't very good with Firestarter, so the remake.
Oh
of
my
that.
God, was that horrible?
And tying it back to RoboCop, Kurtwood Smith in both.
Who directed
Yes.
Misery?
Uh,
Misery was good, even though it was far
Rob
from the
Reiner
book.
directed.
Yeah, Rob
Misery.
Reiner.
Okay.
Castle
Yeah.
Rock. Yeah. his
Yeah,
one was
Castle Rock, which is so funny.
because he's a huge
'cause-
Stephen King fan.
Yeah, he should have done more. I don't know.
Well,
if
he's a producer on him. I mean, anything that says Castle Rock.
Yeah, it's true. So,
you know,
but not
is him.
all the Stephen King movies are produced by Castle Rock, right?
No.
No.
Not at
They
all.
should.
No.
Because it's
No.
it's
Well, I
Stephen.
know. I think Firestarter was Universal, so I mean, it's yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, and
anyway,
that was
we
Louis
had
Teague. Yeah, we directed
Hey,
that
one
one.
thing that I wanted to make connection to real quick is the bartender at the Overlook is Dr. Emmett Terrell from Blade Runner.
Nice.
Dr.
Yeah.
Oh
Alvin
yeah,
Terrell.
yeah.
I got to
Yeah,
see him at a horror convention. I don't think I met him, but I saw him at a horror convention before he
Yeah, that's
passed away.
every time his name popped up on the credits, I was like, wait, that's very close to my name there. Just it's like one letter and an extra letter
It
spelled in
was
there. I
Joe
was like,
something, right?
Joe
Turkle.
Turkel.
Turkle.
Yeah.
Turkel.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
very similar to my name. Take out the L and flip two letters, and I was like, huh.
So I see him at the horror conventions and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but just didn't go up and, meet him. I did meet Danny, the young Danny, and he was really nice, but
Oh yeah.
didn't get any autographs.
Yeah, I wondered, like, why didn't they get the original Danny back? I mean, he's still around and probably the correct age. And then I looked him up and I'm like, oh, well, that's why.
Oh, because he doesn't look like
he
Danny,
just
or?
doesn't look Hollywood. He doesn't look like Ewan McGregor. I mean, it's just he's not.
Well, he's not an
it's
actor or anything.
yeah.
He had a cameo, didn't he? Wasn't he like an extra basically in Doctor Sleep? I think he was like a reporter or somebody who walked by on screen or something like that.
Probably.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
That would
It's kind of like looking up Tommy from like Halloween. Like, well, why wasn't Tommy in these new ones, the original kid? Then you look at him like, oh, that's why, because he's just like a guy. He's just
Yeah.
like a real estate agent who just looks like a guy. He's not.
Yeah, instead, and we'll get Anthony Michael Hall instead or something. Yeah.
I met
Yeah.
the guy who played the young Michael Myers in the original, the one when you pulled off the mask from, in the first opening of Halloween, and Will Sandon, I think his name was. Really good, cool kid, really cool guy, but he actually looks like he could be a Hollywood dude, but not somebody like you wouldn't be like, oh man, that guy looks like the guy who was the kid in, you never would have guessed that guy was the kid in there. But Kim Richards and all of them, or all the people from
her sister.
the sister,
Desperate Housewife.
all of them are like,
well, the Real Housewife.
are still doing stuff. So it's great,
It's funny you mentioned the kid who played Barry in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When I was living in Alabama, he lives in the same town. I went to college and down there, but he sells like insurance and stuff. He said that was something that happened like 30 years ago, and I don't know, hardly remember it, but I just wanted to help people and get them insurance or something. But it's really funny how they let them do something and then they just go their separate ways.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's kind of wrap this up.
Well, let's segue back into RoboCop because
RoboCop, yes,
of course, Miller, who wrote Batman, who had a mask, also wrote RoboCop 2, and RoboCop has a mask. So there you go.
All right,
There you go.
There's
So
the tie-in right there.
now we're back to RoboCop.
Yes. And I wonder, I wonder if they're ever going to remake this again or something. Sure, they will at some point. I just wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They would just need to sort of figure out how to get back to the original.
They tried to make it. Gary Oldman's in the remake. I mean, they tried to make a good faith effort by putting somebody good in it. It's just I don't remember it holding that much water to me.
Yeah,
it's basically a combination of 1 and 2, thrown together. It's not the worst, but it's like, okay, stop. If we need to stop.
Well, I mean, it's just like Terminator. They're gonna, like, James Cameron's gonna do a whole new Terminator. It's gonna be a whole new thingy.
Don't get me started on that. He's gonna change it to AI because he doesn't want to have guns anymore because he feels that he was a toxic male, and so now it's gonna be AI. It's not gonna be cyborgs.
Yeah, well, that last Terminator might be Arnold's worst film. I know we tied that in earlier, saying it's Arnold's worst film.
He is so cut in that film. They just chopped his balls off. He sells drapes. Really? His Terminator sells drapes. You couldn't make him like on a construction site.
Something he should be needed for, since he's got like muscles.
No, he has to sell drapes.
He can like rebuild houses or something.
Man, I wonder if that was his idea though, or something. Like, I'll do it as long as I can sell drapes.
Well, each film he got worse. He got more. His balls kept getting cut off more and more in each movie. So
You
And now
know, the being governor of California has softened him, you know. I mean,
he was
I
actually
guess.
okay. I voted for him. I lived in California
I've
for a
heard he was
time.
a good governor. I'm just saying he's, you know,
Well,
changed.
he's a Republican Democrat, so it's he's Republican because of money. That's
Right.
not his political views are not Republican, but he wants the tax write-offs and all that stuff. So, but he married a Kennedy,
Yep.
Yeah.
and then cheated on her with his ugly maid, and had a kid with her. Ugh.
Yeah.
Love
There's-
child.
Oh God, I don't know how
Yeah.
you could call that love.
It's
If you're gonna cheat on a Kennedy, at least do it with somebody good looking.
All right, somebody's getting canceled later, you know.
Hey, one
Oh,
time
I judge all the time. You've heard of me.
I
mean,
know, I know.
I was just talking to Joe Luan the other day about the movie Smile, and I told him about Kevin Bacon, that the lead girl is Kevin Bacon's daughter, and she needs to eat a friggin' sandwich. You could see all the bones everywhere on her. Like, my God, the girl would, like, you touch her and she'd like break in half. It's very uncomfortable watching her. Like, eat a hot dog. You know, it won't kill you. Ugh.
Might choke
No.
too
yeah,
soon.
to bring it back to RoboCop, they should do Murphy like Logan, old man Logan. They should do old man Murphy, and he's kind of cut his helmet off, and he's kind of like half morphing back to a human, and then like Ronnie Cox comes after him, or they resurrect Clarence Boddicker. I don't know. Just
I'm gonna go one up from you. I'm gonna say if they do a remake, you need to make it a black lesbian woman.
I
Are
have
we
no idea where this is
are we
going.
trying to make a woke RoboCop? Is that what you're saying?
woke
I mean,
cop,
Woke cop.
Woke cop.
woke
See, there you
cop.
go. That sounds like a movie in itself. Yeah, like
Is that
that's
is
Ron
that like an
Bonk is gonna
asylum
make
film?
that.
Yeah.
You know. But I'm
It's an asylum film.
yeah. I don't know. I just it would be weird. Actually, I was just talking to somebody about it the other day. You can't really make a movie about cops right now. Cops are not liked at all, you know.
No, especially with what just happened.
I know. So
And
literally you
sent me
cannot
the
remake
first,
this movie
yeah.
for at least a few more years until cops become maybe liked again, and maybe they won't. So this movie may never get made, you know, again. Now that I'm
Well,
thinking
cops
about
go
it,
after RoboCop. Remember that at the end, Ronnie Cox sends them after to kill RoboCop.
that's true.
So there's no dedication there at all, even though RoboCop is doing nothing but good.
Well, that's because and that's because Ronnie Cox wanted him dead and stuff, and the
Yeah.
OCP controlled, you know. I love that we brought it back to RoboCop. Thank God we got back to here, but
And the remake they call OCD instead of OCP.
OCD. Well, see, there you go.
He's
That
just
would
up
go
there
with the
cleaning all the
satire
time.
of the stuff, you know, or whatever. Especially you would have to do it where it's, you know, today's, you know, society of what's going on right now, because that's what the movie was. The movie was a satire on what was going on at that time.
Well, depending on who made it, you could say that because of the you know, the climate of the cops these days is they want to get out of that. So they build RoboCop. So it can go back to children loving him and TV shows and commercials, and to make police look good again, they build RoboCop because of the recent violence.
You know that Hollywood is going to be listening to this and is going to be writing
Well,
everything
yeah,
you said down and making it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, John, I think you're onto something there. Because
Thank
it's like you could have cops that would be not emotional, if you will. They would just be purely by the books, and that's what unfortunately is not happening in society, and that's what people might want, is something like that. So it's, if they did that, then I'm sure there'd have to be some sort of fallout from that happening for the arc of the story, obviously. But that could be the general setup of something.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What was that? Oh, I thought you were doing. Is that your cat?
That was a cat butt. That was Boris' butt. Yeah.
I thought you were like doing something like.
No, I'm ignoring him. So he wants it. There he is. He wants attention.
There you go. But anyway, well, I want to say thank you guys so much for this. This has been awesome and a great show, and there has been a lot of talk about a lot of stuff, not just RoboCop apparently, but everything. So I really appreciate that. And I want to have you guys. We'll have you guys back on. If you guys don't know, and you guys are following us right now, but Alfred and Joe and I have a show called Hollywood Boulevard Podcast, and it's a podcast, obviously, because hence the name at the end. But we basically talk about stuff going on in Hollywood. Right now, we're actually doing an 80s theme for the thing. So, but we'll be back in March for that, and this I think won't come out till April, so it'll already be out. Like episodes will be out. So check those out. John and I have a show that we do called Mainstream Mondays on Horror Film Lovers. It's a vidcast that we do together. We do other stuff too, but the main thing we do is that. So and we're going through all the James Wan movies right now, and or things similar or whatever, like
Conjuring, and then Insidious, and then
and then everything else kind of connected to that sort of universe.
The Nun, La Llorona, and all that stuff.
Yeah, we already tackled those.
We did them in order of year that the movies take place, because there's a timeline that you can find. Like if you Google the timeline, it will say like The Nun is first, 1958, and then it goes all the way up to like 1981 with The Devil Made Me Do It. And so we've been watching them that way, and which I thought worked on the first time watching it, and then watching it with Jonathan and talking about it, we realized it doesn't work. There's way too many retcons and
continuity errors, and all that
a lot of stuff with Annabelle that makes no sense at all.
No.
Like, why is Annabelle shouldn't be called Annabelle?
I mean, if you watch it separately by itself, you might not pick that stuff up. Fine. But if you watch them back to back, you're gonna go, wait, what? Then,
I watched them in the order that they've been released, so I haven't retroed it back, and
and even then I think that should have confused people, because the people are like, wait, what? Why did that happen? Or whatever. But I don't know. It's a weird series.
It sounds like an interesting conversation that can go on there.
And Paul and I, who left, the Moo Cow left, because he's sick. He and I do Indie Film Cafe and other things. We do Criterion Watch. We do Film Freaks. This one we do what the F Fridays. We can't say the word because we get in trouble with freaking
except I just said it like 3 times in this video. So.
I think you did. I think you said it probably more than that.
I say it all the time. It's my favorite word. So.
Yeah.
All I heard was fudge and frickin'. I
know. Like it just kept changing on you, censoring it. Right.
I said it twice.
You probably did.
I was quoting the movie though.
There you go.
We're talking RoboCop. I mean, come on.
Well, I'm just saying YouTube tends to like get mad when you have cursing for some reason. And I'm like, I understand, like kids might check this out. I make sure that every single one I put it on kids. Adult, so no kids are allowed.
I think it's if you make money, they don't want you to. But if you don't, because if you watch any of my videos, I say the F word probably like 20 times.
Well, you're also not supposed to put it in the title of it, right? You're not supposed to have the title.
Yeah.
I think you could do F//K. I think that's
right. Okay. Or something like that. But you generally can't put the thing, or they like flag you for that, even if you're not getting written. But what we do is now we just do what the F Fridays. So we got that show going on. We got some more stuff going on with that. And Joe should probably be back for a couple episodes in the thing if you're able to.
I'm due for my seasonal indie film cafe punishment.
Yeah, because we just did have you for A Better Place, and that wasn't. I don't think that was.
Oh, that was actually that was good.
You actually enjoyed it, which made me happy because I was, even when I think you're gonna enjoy it, like the janitor, you didn't enjoy it. So,
Vincent did a good job with Better Place.
Yep, Vincent Pereira did.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so anyway, we'll have you back there for that. And Alfred and I have talked about doing some episodes of the Mainstream, which is a podcast, and there's one specifically that Alfred requested. So we'll talk about that later. Right, Alfred?
Yes, but I forgot what it was.
Let's just say it's Star Wars related in a way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you remember now.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's Spock. It deals with Spock
Yes,
because
exactly.
it's Star Wars related. It's Spock.
Because it's Star Wars related.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. We're gonna do Spock, the documentary that you have, right? Don't you have a documentary called Spock or something?
For the love of Spock,
For the love of Spock. There you go.
made by his son.
I think we should do the Troy McClure movies.
The Troy
I love
McClure
those films. I am a big
Those
fan
The
of Troy
Simpsons.
McClure. Well, not that Troy McClure, but I love Doug McClure, who's
Yeah,
supposed to be
I-
Troy McClure. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad, you got me. I love those Doug McClure movies, like the
At the Earth's Core. And,
First Man in the Moon.
Yeah, he look him up, Jonathan. He was huge back in the day, like the 70s and the 80s. This guy was like the guy. Like
Yeah.
he was in friggin' everything. He was in all of those, like, Journey to the Center of the Earth and People That
Jules
Time
Verne.
Forgot.
Oh, I thought Troy McClure was the in Simpsons
No,
was the.
Doug McClure.
I know, but I
but
thought
Troy McClure is supposed to be Doug McClure.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I thought he was the news reporter, right?
There's a guy who's like,
No,
you might remember me from
Troy's the
film
actor.
that-
Troy's the actor that's in all those.
He's the one who
B-movies?
sings the musical for Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it
commercials.
is.
You might remember me from such movies as. He was, like,
Oh,
doing
that's right. Yeah.
commercials.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah.
What's funny is that one of my cat passed away like 4 years ago. His name was Dr. Zayas. He lived to 20 years and 2 months.
Oh,
But my friends
nice.
used to send me the Dr. Zayas musical thing.
Nice. All right. Well,
Dr. Zayas,
that's
Dr.
amazing that I
Zayas.
lived that long.
Dr.
That's-
Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
Well, everybody,
Dr. Zayas.
thank you guys so
Come
much
on.
for joining us in this episode.
Robocop,
Next
Robocop.
month will be Paul's
Robocop,
again, so
Robocop.
I have no idea what he'll be
Robocop.
torturing me with. Or
Hey, don't forget that I do reviews after midnight for you.
that's right. That's right. Oh my God, I totally forgot. Thank you for reminding me. So
I
we
guess
do,
it doesn't
yeah.
mean much to you then.
It does mean a lot. I'm sorry. I just forget. I do too much. I have too much on this thing.
Are these after midnight reviews? Are they like what type of movies are they?
Well, Jonathan does put them up after midnight, and they are mostly like really bad, cheesy Dollar Tree stuff that I find, or stuff like that. Stuff that the one that I just sent him was the Blackout Invasion Earth that I found at Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
So
So he
that's
sends
so
me
that-
these
yeah.
like B movies that like Dollar Tree ones that he wants to review. They has no other place to review them on or whatever. And I like that because we don't because I used to do that 31. Well, I did that 31 days of indie horror for a while, and that was pretty much Tubi was what I was doing instead of Dollar Tree, but I could have done Dollar Tree as well, and some of them are probably on Tubi that are on at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I do a little bit. I do other stuff too. It's just not Dollar Tree. But if it's easy to just grab a Dollar Tree movie that I haven't seen,
Yeah.
Trench 11 is one that's coming up. That's also Dollar Tree. Ghosts of Chernobyl. That's another one.
Nice.
But
I
that's
saw
not
that
Dollar
one
Tree.
at Dollar Tree. Yeah, I thought I saw that one at Dollar Tree. Maybe I didn't.
I think you did.
It's awful. Trench 11 is great. Get that, and get Blackout. The Blackout is really good.
All right. Well, thank you guys. And I know it's late for most people here. As John, you probably got shit to do too anyway. But I just want to say once again, thank you guys. Check us out on indiefilmcafe.reviews, indiefilmcafe.podbean.com, and sickflickproductions.com. I should be updating more stuff with that soon. So aside from all that, thank you guys and have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Go Robo.
Bye.
Buy that for
Robo.
$1.